The life to faith to life approach is very, very simple. It is exactly what it says. It's inviting people to bring their lives to their faith and their faith to their lives. Very often people keep their life and their faith separate, as if they're two different things. For some people, faith is just simply something for a Sunday morning. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they leave their faith out of that. Whereas this approach, this pedagogy, encourages people to take their lives and bring it to their faith. In other words, bring it to faith, to be inspired, to be renewed, to be encouraged, but then take their faith and bring it back into life again. In other words, what we do on a Sunday, we have to bring into our Mondays and our Tuesdays and bring back into our Sundays. So we have to bring our lives to the content, to the resources and the inspiration, the good news of our faith. But then we have to take that good news and try to bring it into the midst of the world, not just keep it to ourselves or keep it in our churches, but bring it out into the world. Well, I try to use it in my teaching. I try to practice a little of what I preach, and it's not a great mystery. Most teachers just go in and lecture and then ask students, do you have any questions? I go in and I try to lecture for a little while, 5-10 minutes, and then I ask them life-centered questions. I ask them questions that get them to turn and look at their own lives and reflect on their lives. Then I hear some of their comments, reflections, their dialogue, their conversation. Then I proceed with the content of my lecture, but then I will often stop throughout my lecturing and ask people questions and invite them to share, as we did here the last 2 days. And then at the end, as I close out at the end of my lecture, I try to bring it back into people's lives again. And I ask them not just, what did you hear, or I basically ask them, how are you going to put this to work in your life? It's interesting, when people give a lecture, very often we say, oh, Professor Groome will welcome questions. I always get up and say, no, I will welcome answers. Now, if somebody has a question, I'm happy to hear it at the end of a presentation, but I don't want people just to tell me their questions. I want them to tell me what they're thinking, what they're coming to see for themselves, the wisdom they have in their life, like the questions we asked this morning. Because everybody there has wisdom to share. So rather than just asking them to give their questions, I ask them to share what they've come to learn, what they've come to see. So it's a feeble attempt to practice the life to faith to life approach, even in a formal seminar or lecture like we've been doing here. The Shared Christian Praxis Approach is simply a fancy name for life to faith to life. So when I first started writing about it, and still when I write my academic books that graduate students, doctoral students have to read, then I talk about it as a Shared Christian Praxis Approach. But the shared approach just refers to the dialogue, the conversation. The praxis is life. And then the Christian is the gospel, and that's approach. It's bringing life to faith to life. So that's a more user-friendly way of describing it. It's a more easily understood way. Like Shared Christian Praxis Approach takes a little while to explain. But it's just a more technical description or a more technical title for a life to faith to life approach.